You know, I would really want to firstly start by addressing the president. That if he has to hurt other people to feel powerful, then he's a very weak individual. He's a very weak individual in that these three judges that he targeted are people that in 2016 he described as criminals in wigs. These are people that he had a I was almost saying Vedanta because I listened to your show and you keep saying it's not Vedanta, it's Vendetta. So in this case, we're using Vendetta against them. It is clear that he has had an issue against them. Now, you will recall that in 2016, on the 5th of September, there was a ruling of the court where they said, listen, 14 days is 14 days. This matter is concluded. Our judicial system is set up in such a way that in the practice or in the carrying out of their responsibility or in the exercise of the judicial authority, the judiciary is independent. That is in Article 22 of our Constitution. So if a judge is going to make a decision, that judge is not subject to any authority or person. They're only subject to the Constitution. And the inbuilt system that we have as a country in correcting a judge is by way of appeals. But for the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court, you can't appeal. Their decisions are final. Now, having made a decision that the matter could not go beyond 14 days, a legal decision for that matter, there were a couple of people that were disgruntled. Amongst them, we had Dante Saunders, we had Mr. Peter Sinkamba, we had Douglas Yakalima, we had about 8 complaints that were filed in with the Judicial Complaints Commission. The Judicial Complaints Commission issued 8 decisions where they are saying there's no prima facie case against these judges. The complaints was against the 5 judges, that is the 3 judges that have been suspended, including Judge Mnalula and Judge Chibomba. Judge Chibomba has since retired. Judge Mnalula is still around. I don't know why she's not one of those that has been suspended, but I can only speculate to the effect that when that decision was made as regards 14 days, she was the opposite opinion, an opinion which I think this government really liked at that point, because she said, no, we can go beyond the 14 days to hear this matter. But the 3 judges said, no, we can't, because the Constitution says it has to be 14 days. Now, what has happened now is that the Judicial Complaints Commission, having dealt with those 8 matters, saying that the matters were, the judges were cleared. They even wrote to the judges and said, you've been cleared of all these matters. In 2023, after HH1, in fact 2022, late 2022, one Joseph Busenga complained and went to the Judicial Complaints Commission. By that time, the chairman was Vincent Malambo, State Counsel. And Vincent Malambo, State Counsel, responded to the complaint by Busenga to say, listen, this matter has been dealt with a number of times by the Judicial Complaints Commission. Having dealt with it, whether they decided rightly or wrongly, we are functus official, or we can't sit and determine a matter that we already determined. And the only reason it was determined those 8 times is because those 8 times the matters came in at the same time. Busenga sat back, then renewed his application. Vincent Malambo wrote back and said, we already told you we can't reopen this matter because it is a dead issue.
So it was thrown out.
It was thrown out. So now you're looking at a matter that was dealt with 8 times. Now this 9th time, one Moses Kalonde from Matero, a surrogate of the UPND, goes and complains with the new commission that has been set up, the appointees of the president. They decide, okay, all these times they were wrong. Vincent Malambo was wrong to deal with this matter and say it was already dealt with. And they have reopened the case. After the case was reopened, the judges went and they raised the preliminary issue and said, you have no jurisdiction to deal with this matter because it is a matter that was already dealt with. What did the Judicial Complaints Commission under the leadership of Eva Jala, because Vincent Malambo now has declared interest, say, I can't deal with this because I already responded to this letter. Not just that, State Counsel Vincent Malambo, in that particular matter in 2016, he represented Judge Chubomba, he represented Judge Munalula, and his submissions were to the effect that they were not wrong in the manner that they decided that 14 days was 14 days and they couldn't go beyond that. So
he recused himself.
He had to recuse himself at this point in time. And the view that he held is a view that the commission has held all this time, except this new commission appointed by Hakainde Hichilema has come up with a new way of dealing with things. They have reopened a case that was closed. Now, that is an affront and an attack on the judiciary, because the executive cannot be seen to be wanting to correct judgment of the courts. They have no such jurisdiction. If at all we are going to proceed in this manner, it will mean that if you go to the subordinate court, you have a matter there, and you appeal to the High Court, for example. If the High Court decides that you are right and the judge or the magistrate in the magistrate court was wrong, it means that we need to expel or suspend that magistrate for having made a wrong decision. That is what this is coming up to. Should we be headed in that direction? No, we shouldn't. Because our legal system is created in such a way that there has to be consistency in the decisions that are being made. Decisions have to be consistent for purposes of inspiring hope, inspiring trust in our judicial system. But what has happened right now is that we are saying that whenever there's a change of government, there has to be a change in the judgments or thinking of people that are in the judiciary. An example is that case of the eligibility of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Upon change of government, there have been judgments that have been to the extent that he is eligible. Now the matter is coming up before court, and someone has raised, the UPND has taken the matter to court to say he is no longer eligible. And you will notice that these three judges that have been suspended are judges that are also sitting on that panel. They are judges that sat in the other four panels that decided that he was eligible. Now, the reason this is being done is not far from fetch. On the 26th of this month, on the 26th, we are appearing before the Constitutional Court. We are appearing before the Constitutional Court where this matter is supposed to be argued as to whether Edgar Chagwa Lungu is eligible. We are arguing in that matter that he is eligible because you already dealt with this matter. Now the composition is that there are 11 people that are sitting on the bench right about now. With a suspension of the 3, that leaves us with 9. Of the 9, the majority were appointed by President Hakainde Hichilema. I'm not suggesting anything, but it is telling as to why the president could have moved so swiftly to deal with this matter.
Yeah, no, that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Because you've obviously heard the talk after this news broke out yesterday. I mean, we know Thursday there's the case, the eligibility case of former President Edgar Lungu. So you equally feel this is the reason why we've seen the suspension of these 3 judges. Do you equally feel? I mean, we had...
It's not rocket science.
If you heard the conversation we had with Dr. Seshua a few minutes ago, saying this could be a case of revenge on the 3 judges. And do you also feel it's because of the Edgar Lungu eligibility case coming up on Thursday? Does this explain the suspension?
It's not rocket science that the reason this is being done is to stop the issue of the eligibility case. President Hakainde Hichilema is determined at all costs to ensure that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu does not appear on the ballot. That is the scheme of things in this whole thing. We have seen the grossest interference with the judiciary during the term, this term where Hakainde Hichilema is in office. He has interfered with the judiciary right from the core, and I put the blame on the Chief Justice because he has played along with what the President has wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I'll take this opportunity to call on the Chief Justice to resign. To resign because he has failed to secure the independence of the judiciary.
Is there some type of intimidation on the judges?
It is. It is some type of, in fact, not some type, it is in fact intimidation on the judges. Look at the judges that have been taken out. Look at how easy they've made it to get rid of a judge. Judge Joshua Banda is not there. Judge Muma is not there. Because they were seen to be persons that were that were not, or the state at least found them inimical to their interest. We have a situation where this president appointed a judge who was not eligible to be appointed as a judge, Judge Malumani. When Judge Malumani was appointed, he was 9 years and 11 months at the bar. He should have been appointed only when he was 10 years at the bar, but they went ahead and appointed him. We raised this issue, went to the Constitutional Court and said, this is wrong. This can't be done. But alas to our dismay, they went ahead and agreed. So we are having judgments that are suiting the executive and defying the very constitution that describes how things should be. That is what we're having. And there's no better way of describing that interference, because in one moment, the president is sitting and is saying, we are going to establish the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. The next thing, the Chief Justice gets up and says, well, I'm establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Division, and comes up with SI number 5 of 2022. The next thing he says, we'll be trying matters in 5 months. The Chief Justice jumps and says, yes, we shall try out in 5 months. But we have been asking the question, what is an economic and financial crimes? An economic and financial crime. There is no definition of what an economic and financial crime. And what is curious, the idea of doing things in a hurry. I will show you something, Hope. If you look at the statutory instrument that Judge Mumba Malila, the Chief Justice, promulgated, it only has 4 sections. In these 4 sections, it says this order may be cited as the economic and financial. This is established the Economic and Financial Crimes Court as a division of the court. He creates a division of the court, even when he had no power to create a division of the court. He goes ahead and creates it, puts it in the subordinate court. Then they come up with the rules in statutory instrument number 10 of 2024. I'll show you something very curious on that statutory instrument. In particular, section 2, there's an interpretation clause. And in determining what an economic and financial crime is, they define it as follows. Economic and financial crime has the meaning assigned to the words in the Economic and Financial Crimes Division of Court Order 2022, which is SI number 5 of 2022. So these rules are referring you to SI number 5 of 2022. When you look at SI number 5 of 2022, there is no definition of what an economic and financial crime is. So the issue is that this idea of singing the song of the executive has caught up with the judiciary. Now,
and I'm happy you've touched on that, because
yes.
My next question was going to be on the independence of the judiciary, because unfortunately, from what we are seeing right now, it's the politics that's being smeared on the judiciary, unfortunately. And for most Zambians, that is not what they want to see. We want to see a situation where, most Zambians have, confidence in the judiciary. But when we begin to see such moves, it does question a lot. So you're a seasoned lawyer, Mr. Zulu. How do we, Counsel rather, how do we get it right?
How do we get it right?
Because let's look at, how they are appointed.
Exactly. So we start from the point of view where they are appointed. We start from that point of view and say, how are we appointing our judges? Are we appointing them based on their allegiance, on their political allegiance? Right now, I will tell you that the judiciary is divided. There are very few good people, very few remnants. And if you went to the judiciary and asked the judges that have been there for a long time, they would rather leave, because what it is now is not what they envisage it would be. Every judge is timid. Every judge is scared now because of the way that they have been treated by the executive. The functional independence of the judiciary has been eroded, all because the Chief Justice himself has been weak. He's allowed his system to be used by the executive.
But the truth is, this is not the first time we're seeing this happen in this country.
The truth is that this is the first time it's happening in this country. There is no other time where you have seen the judiciary and the executive singing from the same hymn book. President Hakainde Hichilema...
I'm actually referring to the appointments, yeah.
Don't
you feel they all appoint based on those lines, and some type of loyalty is expected from them?
You see, the problem has been that we have for a very long time depended on the goodwill of people. We have depended on the goodwill of people. And now we expected that we will depend on the goodwill of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. We thought he was a decent person. Now we are having where the law is being abused. This is not Mingalato. Mingalato is using the law in its proper context. But he has abused the law to achieve his own purposes. This is a typical example of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who described these judges he has suspended as criminals in wigs in 2016. Today he has come. The chickens have come home to roost, and he has suspended them, settling scores that he had in 2016, thinking that he should have been president. Now the issue is, why is he so insecure now? Why is he determined to ensure that President Edgar Chagwa is not on the ballot in 2016? Didn't he win by 1 million? Does he think he has lost that 1 million? Should we question how he won in 2016 now that he seems like a timid little kid that is afraid that his candy may be taken away? That should not be the case. We expect that he should lay his hands off the judiciary. We expect that Mumba Malira should stand up to the occasion and say, I can't do this anymore.
Thank you. I'm happy you said that, because he should equally be in that position. So now, my next question is, how can the judiciary be strengthened? The
judiciary should be strengthened by having a Chief Justice who will say no to what the executive wants, who will protect his own judges and not throw his own judges under the bus. We can't have that. You can't have a Chief Justice who says, yes, I think we have failed to help the government recover assets. It is not the job of the judiciary to help the government recover assets. Their job is to pan out justice. Their job is to ensure that justice is done in every matter. We had the president go to Livingstone and addressing the judges and telling them, I'm willing to increase your salaries, but only recover what was stolen. Then that is what I'm going to use to improve your conditions. Now you are telling a judge to say, go and convict, because your money is with these people that I think stole your money. That is exactly what he's saying in that. So we have had this problem for quite some time now. But if the Chief Justice was to rise to the occasion, I expected that at that particular occasion he should have told the President, Mr. President, that is not how we function. Ours is to protect the Constitution. Ours is to be independent functionally. Ours is to be independent in our judicial function. Ours is to be independent in our administrative function. Ours is to be independent even in the handling of our finances. But all this has been taken away from the judiciary. That independence has been taken away from the judiciary. And we have a lame duck of the judiciary. And the moment that hope is lost in the judiciary, the moment that people no longer have confidence in the judiciary, they will not go there anymore. What is going to happen? People will go to the street. People will sort out things their own way. The very fact that our court system has become inconsistent in dealing with issues is problematic. The very fact that they are choosing to reopen a matter that they've closed 4 times is in itself a problem. And that should be something that we have to rise as a nation and deal with and say, we can't go on in this route. We can't go and use system to settle personal scores. Let the judges sit, let them make a decision, let the judiciary be independent, let the Chief Justice take charge of his position as Chief Justice and do the right thing. All the arms of government are gone. Nelly Muti is misbehaving at National Assembly. The Chief Justice is misbehaving at the judiciary. And we have the President misbehaving in State House. We are now a banana republic. We are now close to being a failed state. And that should not be the case. We need to protect the Constitution, Hope.
All right. Well, I think we've spent ample time on the suspension of judges. Let's see how things play out on Thursday. Maybe we can have another lengthy discussion on it after that. Otherwise, let's touch on the rule of law. How do you assess the government's adherence to the rule of law, particularly regarding human rights? I mean, we keep hearing this. Current President Hakainde Hichilema has heavily touched on this as well. We will be governed by the rule of law. Is that what's happening?
President Hakainde Hichilema is a hypocrite. He is a hypocrite. What he says is not what he does. The rule of law is only a song to him because he's pandering to Western influence. He wants to be seen to be good internationally, but he's a bad father at home. He's a bad father because everything that he says does not happen in the manner that he says. On more occasions than many, he has said when people are arrested, within 48 hours, within the requisite period by the law, take them to court. Don't arrest people without investigations. Is that what we've been seeing? We have people like Rizwan, who were in police custody. At midnight, they are taken out of police custody, taken to Lilai, guns fired over their head, and asking them questions that related to Edgar Chagwalungu, to say, you know where he has hidden things. You tell us where he has hidden things. We've had people like Emmanuel Mwamba brutally assaulted by the police. We've had people that have been abducted in this whole process, and the person. But
still, I mean, it would be fair to point at the president on that when he's giving this directive. Where should this sit? We have the police IG. Who should execute that? Because
the problem is that this president decided that he is going to place the police under his office. He's going to place Anti-Corruption Commission under his office. He's going to place the Drug Enforcement Commission under his office. So he's the one in charge. So he can't say, you do this. That's a directive. He's the one who's in charge. And if they are not following what he's saying, then he has a problem. That's why I'm saying the president is very weak, because he just wants to use that power to hurt other people. And if you're going to use your power to hurt people, then you are the weakest individual that we know.
All right, in case you're just joining us, it's Tuesday's edition of the Hot Sit, and our guest this morning is Lusaka lawyer Makebi Zulu. We'll be opening up the phone lines at 10 if you have any contributions or questions this morning. So what legal recourse is available to citizens facing human rights violations or unfair treatment?
See, the only hope that we have is the judiciary, which is being raped left, right, and center by the executive. And my fear is that people will eventually, if they haven't already, lose trust in the judiciary. Look at the bogus consent judgments that have been being entered into. People are being compensated when they don't deserve a compensation. Hope, when you are being tried and the nolle prosequi has been entered, it means that there's a charge hovering over your head. Anytime the state can come, rearrest you and prosecute you for that matter. But what we have seen is connivance between UPND and the Attorney General's chambers, where people are being compensated. The blame, I will take it to the judges. If I am a judge and someone comes to me with an issue to say I was maliciously prosecuted, the ingredients of that tort or that wrong is that I must show that I was prosecuted. I must show that it resulted into an acquittal. Now, these people have not even shown an acquittal. A judge stands up and goes and signs a consent judgment to say compensate them. That is what is incompetence. That is what is incompetence, because you need to satisfy yourself that the ingredients of the tort of the wrong that has been complained of have been satisfied. Mwaliteta got compensation. Does he have an acquittal? No, he doesn't. This Minister Kawuso got compensation. Does he have an acquittal? No, he doesn't have an acquittal.
And this is earlier how we get it right, because I mean these politicians come and go in the name of democracy. There's no constants there.
We have to get it right by ensuring that voices are heard. The problem is that a lot of people have gone quiet. They have left the governance of this country to the whims and caprices of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. He has threatened everyone. This is a rule of terror. Dictatorship does not go beyond this. This is a dictatorship. The root word for dictatorship is dictate. What he says is what goes. He says, let there be a financial and economic crimes court. The judiciary, the Chief Justice jumps and sets it up. Let's conclude matters in 5 months. The Chief Justice jumps and sets it up. Yes, these people have been wrongly prosecuted. They have knowledge over their heads. The judges jump and sign the consent judgment. We have a problem with the system.
So thank you. And maybe the problem at the judges, we should be pointing the fingers at.
And I am pointing my fingers at the judges. Look at Judge Mumba Malila himself. I'm sorry, I have to go for him, because he himself knows the right thing to do but doesn't do it. He writes a paper. There's this paper that he writes, With a Justice, the Economic and Financial Crimes Courts in Zambia. Mumba Malila himself sets up this court and he discusses this matter academically. Now, remember I showed you where they purport that there's a definition of what amounts to an economic and financial crime, and then they don't define it in the document that they're saying it has been defined. Then he goes in his paper. Let me read you what he says on page 2. He says, where there is indeed no single comprehensive definition, he says there's no single comprehensive definition, meaning that there must be a loose one. But to check the papers, we don't even have a loose definition of what an economic and financial and economic crimes court is. He says, where there is indeed no single comprehensive definition of what constitutes economic and financial crimes, it is easy from the designation used to describe these crimes to appreciate that these are in effect criminal wrongs that have a damaging effect on the economy and the financial system of a country. An economic or financial crime can thus be understood as a crime committed with the aim of earning wealth, obtain a benefit or other advantage through illegal means by violating the law governing economic activity or regulating the fiscal regime. Now, you would expect that police officer by the roadblock who gets a 20 kwacha from a motorist should be appearing before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. That case of Suji Light in Luapula province, those people should not be appearing before a normal magistrate. They should be appearing before the Financial and Economic Crimes Court. That person who forges a receipt should be appearing before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. But what do we see? We see names appearing before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. Provided you have a name that is can be related to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, then you appear before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court. He doesn't define what it is, merely describes generally what it is in his paper, when he shouldn't even be doing that, because he's the one who set up that. He's the Chief Justice, and this magistrate and other judges will rely on his writing to come up to a conclusion, where in his writing he's not even sure of what he's talking about himself. We have a problem, ladies and gentlemen, and we shouldn't be headed in this direction. Our systems have failed, and we need to correct the systems.
Another talk that pops up, the powers of the president, the talk that, we need to somehow cut the powers of the president. What do you make of that?
We do not need to cut the powers of the president. The president is exercising powers that he does not have. He's delving into a realm that he shouldn't be delving in. He's interfering with the judiciary. He's interfering with the National Assembly when these are supposed to be functionally independent. Nelly Muti has just proven to be a cadre. And I don't want to conclude the same about the Chief Justice, but all the signs are pointing to that fact. And it should not be like that. We need to arise and correct issues. Let the good men that we have in this country, if the law can't protect us, let the good men arise and speak out as to what the right thing should be for this country. Let's set up systems that will be strong enough and reliable, and not to depend on the goodwill of people.
Strong systems. Let's focus on Zambian, ordinary Zambian as the bigger picture. And let's take a look at constitutional reforms. What do you think are necessary to strengthen, Zambia's democracy?
See, now people have been referring to the president as Dr. Lacuna, because he sits back and he decides what is a lacuna, what is not. He refers to Article 52 and says 52.6, there's a lacuna there. There is no lacuna. He's just not happy with the effect of that particular clause. That does not mean that there is a lacuna. If you don't like the effect of the clause, that does not mean there's a lacuna in there. Then when he talks about that, you see that the Electoral Commission is busy jumping up and down and saying, yes, let's go ahead and amend this. And that is what I'm saying, that is dictatorship. He has destroyed the Electoral Commission of Zambia. He wants everyone to pander to his wishes. Whatever he says is what should go. That is the problem that we have. So if we're going to talk about constitutional reforms, it should not be President Hakainde Hichilema to fight for constitutional reforms, because he himself has been hypocritical about this whole thing. You see him in one breath saying there's nothing wrong with Article 52.6. I would rather waste 30 days. I would rather deal with it in 30 days than have a person impersonate as a president. What has happened now? What has happened now? Why is he no longer comfortable? When we're dealing with the matter of Bill 10, we said let's streamline our system. Let's get rid of Article 52 so that we do not have two entry points for purposes of petitioning a president. You can only petition after a president has been elected. You can't petition a nomination. That's what we had proposed, and we're discussing around that issue. They cried on top of the mountain and says, no, we should not deal with that. Leave it as it is. That's just the way it is. He gets in there. He says, oh, it's okay. We said, let's change the Public Order Act. They refused and said, no, let's not touch the Public Order Act. Now, then the next thing, yes,
all our leaders there
exactly.
The same when they're in power.
Well, the thing is, why should it continue? Why should it progress? Perhaps that is why the previous government was kicked out, because because we depended on that. Why does he want to suffer the same fate? Because if the people of Zambia are saying, let's change this, then it's the people of Zambia whom we act for and on behalf. They should be the ones to decide the course that this matter should take. Now, what is happening is that he's fighting everyone. He's fighting the church. He's fighting the NGOs. He's fighting the political parties. He's causing confusion in the judiciary, confusion in the National Assembly. At the end of it all, you see a person who is so hungry to perpetuate his stay in power. He can't be talking about staying in government for 8 to 9 years if he has not thought about it. It's something that he has considered. He shouldn't be afraid. He won by 1 million. What's the fear now? Should we suspect that he rigged the 2016 election? Should we suspect that he no longer has control of what he had control of in 2016 and may not work out in 2021 and may not work out for him in the next election? Should we do that? I think we should be saying, what is the best thing that can be done for our country right now? Hands off the judiciary.
How can the Constitution be made more inclusive and just representative of the diverse Zambian voices?
What is wrong with the Constitution, to start with?
I'm going to keep hearing
yes.
we have a very bad document. We've been hearing that for the longest time.
When we're
article.
dealing with 2016, yes. Hakainde Hichilema said this Constitution is okay. Let's not deal with it. What is wrong with it now? Which provisions of it have been tested? Yes, and my view is, if President Hakainde Hichilema has a problem with Article 52.6, he can't interpret the Constitution. The Constitution says, if you have a problem with the interpretation of this Constitution, go to the Constitutional Court, go and get an interpretation. The same way Dan Pule went and got an interpretation of whether Edgar Lungu is eligible, and the Constitutional Court held that, interpreted and said he was eligible. Is the same way that Hakainde Hichilema should sponsor his surrogates to go and say, what is the effect of 52.6? He will find that what he told this country, the lie he told on the floor of the House to say this may make people perpetuate their stay up to 8 or 9 years, which fact is not true at all. They will disagree with him and give him the right position over that. He has no say over what the meaning of the provision of the Constitution is until the Constitutional Court says so. We are seeing a person who's preparing himself to have this country as a full-blown dictatorship because he thinks he knows it all. He has chosen to usurp the powers of the Constitutional Court by interpreting the Constitution himself. Who has advised him? Where is the Attorney General? Where is his legal advisor? Why are they advising him wrongly? I don't think President Hakainde Hichilema had the time to sit down and study the Constitution on his own. He's incapable of that. Someone must have advised him. And Mr. President, whoever advised you wrongly. Wake up and do the right thing for Zambia. Do it for posterity, not for yourself, not for vengeance, not for hatred, not for anything that you may or may not have against President Edgar Chagwa Lungu or any person that was there before you. It is time to do what is right for Zambians. Right now, Zambians are saying there's too much load shedding. Deal with it. The cost of mini meal is too high. Deal with it. There's so much corruption in your government. Your Minister Kapala dealt with an issue of procurement. He signed letters that are suggesting that where he had no power to do so, and suggesting that he abused his authority. Let Anti-Corruption Commission do its job. Don't interfere with what Anti-Corruption Commission is doing. Let Anti-Corruption Commission tell us which ministers in his government are being investigated for corruption. Then we know that your heart is in the right place. We want to know that. That is what Zambians are interested in.
And Council, we have a new Justice Minister. Nawal has clocked about 3 months in office. What are your impressions on some of her immediate achievements so far? That is Justice Minister Princess Kasran.
What do you mean by immediate achievements? You show me one achievement that has been made. There's zero. None. That is the issue, is that Hakainde Hichilema is only interested in putting someone there who will not be able to speak because they don't know what they are there for. They have no requisite experience or knowledge to be in that particular.
She's not qualified for the job?
No, she's not qualified for the job. She's not qualified for the job. Everybody knows she's not qualified for the job. And it shouldn't be that. And perhaps it's for that reason that we are hearing make outrageous statements, such as there being a lacuna in the Constitution when there's none whatsoever. What we are seeing now is animal farm. And Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is leading this. Let him put his act right. Hands off the judiciary. Hands off the National Assembly. Let our democracy function. Our democracy has clogged. It needs to be oiled once again. It needs to be made to move. We need to take out that timidity from the judges, that interference with the judges. We have aides of the president. We've had people in government approaching judges to rule in a certain way, some of whom have had to recuse themselves from certain cases without stating why they are recusing themselves. But those are noble men and women that we still have in the judiciary that are able to say, no, you can't interfere with my function. I will make my decision based on the evidence that is before me, not to please an aide or anyone that is a surrogate of President Hakainde Hichilema. We need to move from that position and do the right thing.
Let's touch on human rights issues in this country. Which ones do you think are so pressing, and how can they be addressed?
Listen, in order to perpetuate his stay in government, he has decided that Zambians should not hear alternative voices. Democracy is a marketplace of ideas. People need to listen to what the opposition has to offer and compare it to what the government is doing. But apparently this time around, if a member of the opposition speaks against the government, what are they saying? This is seditious practice. Seditious practice is making people to rise against the government. There's nothing wrong with people rising against the government if the government is not delivering on its promises. And rising against the government is people being able to make self-oriented decisions based on the performance of the government and says, we don't want you anymore. Because of that, as by law established through these processes, we are going to get rid of you. People are appearing in court for merely expressing themselves, expressing their views.
Give us some examples where you feel that is the case here. Where...
Listen, we have the case of Munia Zulu, we have the case of Mabonga, we have the case of a lot of other people. We had a priest preaching in church, and what's the next thing? He was being summoned by the police to go and give a statement as to why he said what he said. We had Father Salangeta in Chawama saying, listen, these graphs that you are telling us, people don't eat graphs. People in the compound are thinking of Ulutoshiwa. What is it that we're going to eat today? What is it that we're going to eat tomorrow? Address these issues. What was the next thing that we heard? We heard President Hakainde Hichilema standing on a podium and saying, we have provided free education. You go there. Just because you don't like what a citizen has said does not mean that it's an offense. Seditious practices is not necessarily saying what the government does not like, but they have redefined it to say, if you say what we don't like, we are coming for you. Jack Mwimbu shamelessly had a press briefing where he was saying, you bloggers, you people in these WhatsApp groups, you people on Facebook, we are coming for you for the comments that you are passing. You want everyone to praise you? You don't want people to express their view over your performance? The many things that you said you would do, you have not done. And people have a reason. The problem,
but some of the problem we have seen, especially on some of the opposition figures, there's a case attached to it. If it's hate speech, how do you deal with it?
Listen, what amounts to hate speech? We had people, the UPND cadres, sat and they said, listen, you JJ, we are coming to deal with you. They insulted President Edgar Chagwalungu, saying we are going to circumcise you. You people in Lusaka are tolerating President ECL. Bring him here, we take him to Mukanda, we are going to circumcise him. You can't be dealing with him in such a light way. Then people are saying, listen, you people who are saying that Southern Province is a no-go area, why are you saying that? Our people are coming to us and they are complaining over your acts, and they are saying we need to do something about this. We are stopping them. We're saying we can't go that route. What you do, you go and arrest them and saying that is hate speech. It is hate speech only when it concerns people that you are related to, and it's not hate speech when you are saying things against them. Look at what Batuke Imenda said. He called the Archbishop of Lusaka to say he is Lucifer. Isn't that hate speech? Doesn't that amount to hate speech? Sean Tembo went to court and said, I'm going to prosecute this man as by law established if you people have failed to prosecute him. The DPP said, where is the evidence? The evidence is presented before the DPP to say, this is the evidence. What does he say? He says, no, you can't. Is it because Batuke Menda is SG for UPND? Doesn't that qualify to be hate speech? Why are we applying the law segregatively? There has been a collapse in the rule of law. Examples abound. Examples abound as to how President Hakainde Hichilema and his government have abused the system to fit their own will and what they desire. But they will not take it away from Zambians. Zambians are going to fight, and they will fight within the confines of the law to ensure that he goes and he's replaced with credible people that will be able to put the reins of government in the right place, put systems in the right place, and protect the rights of the Zambians. It is not about him. It is not about ACL. It is about the heart and soul of the nation. The heart and soul of the nation currently ought to be the judiciary, and he has dealt with it in a wrong way. He has raped the judiciary in untold ways, and we are collapsing at a faster rate than we can ever recover. We need to stand up and deal with these things within the confines of the law.
Now, Council 2026, we go to the polls, and there's the talk of electoral reforms. What electoral reforms do you feel are necessary to ensure free, fair, and credible elections in Zambia?
Electoral reforms were proposed in Bill 10. Those electoral reforms were refused. They said, we do not want these electoral reforms. Because it was envisaged that, listen, let's have a system that is going to deal with a country proportionally. Let's have proportional representation where all parties that are going to participate in an election will have a marginal representation or a proportional representation based on the numbers that they have in the election. We wanted every vote to count. We said, let's have a proportional representation where, or a mixed member representation where we'll have the youth properly represented, persons with disabilities properly represented. That is what we needed to, for purposes of national building. What happened? That was denied. They said, no, we will not go in this direction. We said, let's enhance the rights of people. Let's have a referendum where people will have more rights. Let's include economic and cultural rights in the constitution. What did the UPND do? They campaigned against that. Now that they're in power, they're saying, let's amend. What is it that they want to achieve? I can tell you this. In 2026, there is no way on earth that President Hakainde Hichilema can amass 50+1 votes. It is impossible. Of the things that they have done, there is nothing that compares with what the PF did in their term of office. In these over 3 years that they have done and borrowed, there's nothing that can be pointed as to say this is the good use of the money that the UPND has made. The concentration of the UPND has been, let's kill PF so that we can prolong our stay in power. Let's kill the opposition so that we can leave people without an option but for us to stay in power. But the politics that we chose for ourselves is that a government that delivers to the expectations of the people is the one that is going to stay in power. You have to please the people of Zambia. You have to please the people of Zambia by answering their call. And their call is, how can we lower the cost of living, lower our cost of living, create more employment? What do? They come in and say, we've created 30,000 jobs. Where did you take those people, the 30,000 jobs? It is in the infrastructure that was built by PF. As a matter of fact, PF created jobs. and they filled the vacancies that were created by reason of the infrastructure that PF had created. If you're going to build 20 hospitals, 30, 40 hospitals, you need personnel in there. They came at a time before PF could put personnel in there and only put personnel in there and say, we have created employment. They never created employment. They took advantage of the progress and the development that was created by PF.
Isn't that what we should expect from everybody?
That is
this
what,
one will build
that is, yeah, exactly.
This one will come on
exactly.
to this one, because
that is what
it should continue like
it
that.
should continue. It should continue like that. It should continue like that. But what has been their stance? Their stance is that let's queue so that we continue whether or not we've brought any development. They want to perpetuate their stay in power by means of abuse of the law, by means of blackmail, by means of unorthodox means, such as the ones against the judges right about now. That's unorthodox. And President Hakainde Hichilema should stop settling scores in this manner. We know that he doesn't like the 3 judges. In fact, he's the wrong person to have made any move against these judges, because he already has a perception about them. He says these are criminals in wigs. In reference to the 3, why hasn't Munalura been suspended? She was part of the judges that made that decision. The decision is a decision of the court. Why is Judge Munalura still in the Constitutional Court? Why has he only decided to get rid of the ones that disagreed with his position? That is very telling.
All right, well, we had moved to electoral reforms, and maybe let's touch on the ECZ as well, the Electoral Commission of Zambia. How can it be strengthened to improve electoral processes? It
can be strengthened only if we depoliticize it. President Hakainde Hichilema only identified people like Zalomis, who are affiliated to him, who are affiliated to the UPND, Chipenzi, who is affiliated to the UPND, and put them in charge of that organization. Do you think they can exercise any form of independence? They can't exercise any form of independence. Previously, we had former chief justices being appointed to go and head that, because we knew that this is a preserve. This is a preserve of integrity. The judges themselves, the chief justices themselves, are the preserve of integrity. These are people of proven integrity that we are taking there. And the systems were running, and they were running properly. They were able to run an election where they were able to hand over and say, okay, this is what has happened, and presidents have come and they've handed over. Look at the rape of our democracy in the Kavushi by-election, in the Kwacha by-election. Look at the decisions that the Electoral Commission has been making, where they're going to say, we'll decide who from a political party is going to sign an adoption certificate. What business do they have in dealing with who has signed what document in a political party? The Constitutional Court recently held that even the legislature, parliament, has no business over who signs a letter in a political party appointing a leader of the opposition. All they have to do is just receive that. It doesn't matter who has signed it, provided it's from that particular political party. And if the Constitutional Court is able to have that holding, who is the Electoral Commission of Zambia to now come and say, no, we will decide who from your party should sign an adoption certificate? Which law gives them that power? There is no law that gives them that power.
Where
we are going to hell.
If we are questioning the independence,
hope we are going to hell. As a matter of fact, we are in hell. Let's get out of this hell. Those people with the very high levels of incompetence at Electoral Commission of Zambia should not be there. We need to call them out. The problem is that we have been afraid as Zambians.
Again point back to how
it goes back to the issue of the president putting his fingers in every cookie jar and wanting to control everything. Our systems are going to fail us. And the only way to check the excesses of the president is through the judiciary. But he has raped the judiciary. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do as a country? What are we going to do? Everything is in a mess. Everything is in a total mess. I thank God for people like the Deputy Chief Justice, who, when the Chief Justice gave a wrong response to a question asked as to the failure of the judiciary to help the government recover the purported stolen assets, said our role is not to help the government to recover assets. Our role is to mete out justice based on the evidence that is brought before us. That is the response that should be coming from that institution, and not people who are going to stand up, as the Chief Justice did, to say, you go and help the government recover. It's not the job of the judiciary to help. Your job is to do what Article 122 of the Constitution says. The job is to mete out your functions as stated in the Constitution, and not to play to the whims and caprices of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. His role ends at appointing. The functional independence that you should have is guaranteed to you by the Constitution. Instead, judiciary it's not even helped itself. It had even made it easier for them to be removed. Look at how they removed the former DPP from that office. A flimsy process, a subjective process. Now everyone is being subjected to that subjective process, where it depends on the goodwill of whoever is sitting. It's not a matter of evidence. It's about who has complained, who has an interest in this complaint. Let's decide in the best interest of the person who has an interest in this complaint. If it's Hakainde Hichilema, it goes. Just like that. Within a day, you purport to hear a matter. Even when you've been told you don't have the jurisdiction, within that same day you communicate to the president. The president, the same day, at 18 hours, he issued a statement and says, I have suspended these judges. At the wrong time altogether. But the timing is telling. Our democracy is failing us.